There we go. All right. Welcome everyone to our monthly sisters call. Today we're going to talk about how to prepare for a liveaboard. I'm calling this how to prepare for a liveaboard, but everything we talk about today is applicable to any big dive trip anywhere. Anytime you're going to be diving multiple times a day for multiple days in a row, whatever we talk about today will apply to that. Thank you for being here, and let's get rolling. So first, I like to start off with what this is and why we do these calls. So this program is called the Sisters Program, Surface Interval Sisterhood, we're calling it, and it's part of the Scuba Marmaids Dive School and MAR hosted trips. And our goal with the Sisterhood is to create a space where we can fill in the gaps in diving education, learn as much as possible, and stay connected between dive trips. If we've met before, if I've met any of you, we only get to see each other once every year or two, probably. So this is a fun way for us to stay in touch and to keep learning about a sport that we love. Some things we do on these monthly calls is it's a tea time, we call it. We're just going to hang out and chat together about this topic. We also have offered some courses in the past. We teach some conservation courses, and then of course the conservation is our focus at MAR hosted trips. We want to protect the sport that we love and the place that we do it in. The Scuba Marmaids Dive School is a project that we started in June 2024, and we meet a few times a year and we host retreats for scuba divers to either get certified, do their advanced open water or the rescue diver courses. And we do it in a retreat style and immersive style where they do the course, but we also do extra workshops and stuff kind of like this call where we go beyond the training of PADI and try to make everyone confident, well-rounded divers by the end. And this program's an extension of that. It's our online version of our dive school. So this call today, we're calling it a tea time because it's meant to be conversational. It's meant to be interactive. I want to hear from you almost as much as I'm going to be talking to you. I'd love to see your questions in the chat, and then I will give lots of time throughout the call to come off mute if you feel comfortable and ask your questions and interact. I'm going to ask you questions as well. While I'm speaking, I do keep you on mute because I get very easily distracted. But otherwise, please interact in the chat. I'll see all of your stuff that comes in. And I hope you learn a lot and have fun. What we're going to cover today is I want to talk about physical preparation for a big dive trip. I want to talk about the immediate pre-trip prep. And then we're going to talk about caring for yourself on a trip, talk about boat charters a bit specifically, and some tips that we have for a successful trip, as well as time for questions at the end. So I want to hear from you. You can come off mute or let me know in the chat, but what are some things that intimidate you about a big dive trip? A lot of you have Liveaboards booked already, you said, or you might have a big one coming up. But what are some things that intimidate you or that you might be worried about? Why are you here on this call today? I heard somebody. Anybody worried about their fitness? Anyone get really seasick? They're worried about that.
This is Elke. I can speak. So my first liveaboard was Socorro, and I'm usually really good on boats, and I got so seasick on it. So it was like learned my lesson on that Dramamine was not enough for me. So
that's a tough lesson to learn in the middle of the Pacific.
Yeah, it was. And then my roommate was like, "You have to eat." I'm like, "I cannot eat." so I got that. It was fine. I worked my way through it. And I'm prepared for my next one, which is next month to Galapagos. Oh my gosh.
Oh my goodness.
But yeah, I'm always concerned, like, am I going to have enough energy? Because I'm not going to want to sit out a dive. And so that's always a concern, and staying hydrated and all that.
Awesome. Good. That's a very fair question. Is anybody worried about having a good dive buddy or being a good dive buddy? Is that a concern? That's something I think about, because especially for big trips like Socorro or Galapagos, where they're like expensive and it's a lifetime thing, or once in a lifetime thing, I'm like, but what if I get a dive buddy that, is really nervous or is seasick, or, like someone to worry about, because you want to get the most from your trip. Great. Okay. So what is different about a liveaboard versus a regular dive trip? The biggest thing, of course, is repetition. We do a lot more dives than we would on maybe even a resort trip. The recovery time and distance space between the dives is shorter because you're doing more dives, right? Usually we're doing 4 dives a day, sometimes 5 if there's a night dive. And then social pressure. Someone mentioned in the chat that it's a small space on the boat, so it's very true. And also because it's a smaller space, you might feel like everyone's watching you, like that if you set out a dive, everyone's going to know and they might bother you about it. And so those are some things a little bit different about a liveaboard. And something I want to stress from the beginning, this is something I remind divers of all the time, is that you are responsible for yourself and nobody will take care of you like you do. So this entire call is about how to take care of yourself, because ultimately you are responsible for you and you want to have the most fun as possible, right? And take care of yourself. Things that are assumed when you go on this trip and that dive professionals are assuming is that you're a certified diver. And so you have met the requirements for having your diving certificate, which means that technically with an open water diving certificate, you don't have to have a guide, right? So guides are not expecting to have to take care of you most of the time. You can dive with just yourself and a buddy. And only you know how you're feeling. Only you know if you're feeling seasick and maybe shouldn't dive, or if your ear is bothering you a little bit. Nobody else can tell you whether or not to sit out a dive. So keep that in mind as we keep going. I also like to remind divers of some physiology things that are happening to you while you dive that are covered in open water course, but we forget very quickly and are just interesting to know. So what are our bodies doing underwater? While we're diving, even if it's just a super simple drift dive, you don't have to move at all. You just sit there for 45 minutes or an hour and don't do anything. Your body is still working hard. It is maintaining your body temperature. It is dealing with all of the nitrogen that's being stored in your body that does not happen when you're on the surface, right? And it's processing denser air. When your regulator system converts the air in your tank to the ambient pressure around you, right? And when you're underwater, that pressure is getting deep. As you go deeper, there's more pressure, so the air gets denser. So you're breathing the same volume as air as you would on the surface, but there's more of it because it's denser. So your body is also processing more than it's used to. And then what is your body doing after a dive? It's still trying to maintain your body temperature. So we know that water absorbs heat way faster than air, right? And so your body is always trying to maintain your core body temperature depending on whatever's happening on the outside. And then even though we do our safety stops and we come up slowly from our dives, even if we do all the things correctly, when we get to the surface, we still have nitrogen in our body. And that gets built up more and more on dive trips, especially liveaboards when you're diving a lot. The amount of residual gas in our bodies gets higher and higher because we don't have enough time to fully off gas. So even after your dives, your bodies are still working to process that nitrogen that you collected during your dive. So the pro of this is that you're always burning extra calories on a dive, which is why we eat so much. So thermoregulation, we call this the hidden workload of diving. Water absorbs heat 20 times faster than air. So even if you're in water that's really warm, like in 80s or 28 Celsius or whatever, it's still sucking your body heat from you. And then you have the extremes of the surface and the water. So has anyone been in a destination where like it was really hot on the surface, but the water was not? That the water was like maybe 70s or 25, 24. And so on the surface, you're putting your wetsuit on and you're sweating and you're maybe getting heat stroke from being too warm on the surface, and then you get in the water and all of a sudden it's cold. Your body is constantly trying to balance those things and achieve stasis. So be honest with where you're at. Like I said, only you know how you're feeling, only you know where you're at. There's a reason at Mar Hosted Trips why we categorize our trips by difficulty level, of the conditions. We don't tell divers, you can't come on the trip until you have 100 dives. We don't say that. We say, on this dive trip, you need to be comfortable in current. You need to be comfortable launching your buoy. We give you those guidelines because only you know what your comfort and skill level is. And so that's how you can determine, and be honest with yourself, because the only person that can benefit or not from a dive trip is you, right? So some questions to ask yourself to see if you are ready for a big dive trip. Can you remove, carry, rinse, and reset your own gear rhythmically without rushing and being able to do it time and time again? How about equalizing when you descend? Are you able to, do you have a system? Can you equalize? Can you manage your buoyancy as you're going down so that you can equalize? Do you have the confidence to call a dive when you're not feeling well? And I say that because it's hard, right? When you're on a dive and you're with a group and something is wrong, it's really hard to have the guts to tell the guide, like, hey, I need to get out of here. I'm sorry, we need to end this dive, because we don't want to ruin everyone's dives. But it's never worth our safety to finish a dive. Can you comfortably climb a boat ladder while wearing your gear? Can you walk 10 to 15 minutes while carrying a dive bag, your camera kit, and of course, probably in the heat based on most of our destinations? And can you fin steadily for 10 to 15 minutes if there's a mild current? If we get caught up in something and you weren't expecting it, do you have the stamina to be able to fin for a while? If you answered no to any of those questions, that is okay. That doesn't mean you can't go on a dive trip. But it means that you need to do maybe a little more research and see if there's accommodations that can be made and see if it's still a good and safe idea for you to go. So the first question to ask is, what are the conditions of your destination? Is it a place where you could get caught in a random current? Is it a place where there's a lot of swell and surface conditions that you might not be used to, or like an Elkie situation that made her sick when she wasn't expecting that? Is there support available? A lot of our trips have support that you can add. So maybe you can't carry your dive gear. Is there support staff available? Can you get a private guide? Is there, like this lady here is one of our schleppers in Bali. Like, they carry your gear, right, Lori? They carry our gear down the beach. It's shore diving there, and they carry the gear for us. So are there those systems available? Sometimes there are. Do you have time before your trip to improve your fitness? So if you're going on a trip in August, that's a few months away. That's enough time to start getting your cardio up, to start building muscle. Especially those in next March, like you've got a year, you've got time to prepare yourself. Do you have time to do a training or practice trip? If you booked Socorro in March, like Jess did, and now you're wondering if you can handle the currents and stuff, do you have time to do a little trip to Cozumel or do a little trip to Cabo or somewhere in the Pacific to get used to the Pacific diving and get used to current and stuff like that? Cool. Any questions about that so far? You want to comment? Cool. So how do we stay dive ready in our daily lives before dive trips and just in between? So here's a few pillars of diving fitness. First one, of course, is cardio. We all saw that coming. Obviously, breathing is very important to us on a daily basis, but also underwater. Our cardio level determines our breath control and the amount of air we use. You might be able to do a 60-minute dive in Roatan, but then when you get to Socorro and all of a sudden you're fighting current and maybe going deeper, are you still be able to get 45, 50 minutes, or do you need to work on your cardio? Legs and glutes, and we've all experienced this, getting up from the dive boats, right? All of a sudden we're putting on our gear and trying to stand up and realizing that, oh, sitting at our desk is not doing wonders for our glutes and our legs. Shore entries as well. Core and back. This is something that I see all the time and always stresses me out, but it does also, I see injuries, is, the moment when you're climbing up the boat on the ladder and you have to swing over with your gear to get onto the boat. That motion, twisting with weight, it's a high risk move that not everyone's quite ready for. So taking care of your back and your core is really important for diving. Mobility, of course, our joints, our hips, our ankles, our shoulders especially, and spine, moving with the gear. And a pillar of fitness is recovery. What do we do after the dives? Like I said, your body's still doing all this stuff after the dive. And after a few days of diving, we start to get stiff, right? You start realizing that, oh, maybe I'm tensing my back, arching my back in the water. Oh, my neck is getting sore from the gear. Are we hydrating? And I say inside and out because, of course, we're hydrating with water, but also your skin. Our skin starts getting, we start getting little cuts from the bladders and decks because our skin is soft, and maybe little tears in the cuticles. I get those. So we need to hydrate our skin as well as our insides. Getting proper sleep and nutrition, like Elke said. Her roommate kept trying to get her to eat. Like, you got to eat. You got to refuel all those calories our bodies are burning while we dive. Some fun little habits you can incorporate into your daily life just to start preparing is walking after a big meal. After you eat a lot of food, getting up, moving around really helps with our digestion. Drink one more glass of water every day. When you go to bed, I can drink one more glass of water. Doing a cold shower or sauna twice a week. Again, that's helping your body with the thermal regulation we talked about, right? Going from hot to cold, back and forth. It's like a muscle too that needs to be exercised. And trying to get 150 minutes of zone 2 cardio per week. So getting your heart rate up a little bit and building your cardio tolerance. Some of you might not know, but Myra is also a personal trainer, and she put together some exercises for us to do to prepare for a dive trip as well. And these exercises she did are specifically for the muscles we use while diving. So if you don't have weights at home, there's no excuse. You can use a log on the beach like she did here. But doing squats with shoulder press is going to help you with standing up with gear. Weighted rows will help you build strength for the climbing the ladders, right? Especially, the moment when you're in the water and the ladders are sometimes short and you got to pull yourself out of the water. That's what those weighted rows are for. And step ups are something that I just started doing. I'd never done before, but I was noticing my balance getting degrading a bit. And so I found this exercise, and just really focusing on using your leg muscles and grounding your feet to pull your body up off the floor has been helping me out a lot. So I really recommend the step ups. And that'll also help you, of course, with this ladders and everything like that. Okay, so now we talked about like lifestyle things and fitness level things. Now I'm going to talk about like the week before a trip, right before you go on a big dive trip. How can we prepare ourselves? And contrary to everything I just said, do not try and get fit the week before you go on a trip. Okay, so don't all of a sudden rush and try and work out a bunch right before you go on a trip. If you didn't, that's fine. Now we need to prepare for the stress your body's going to go through on the trip. So sleep, hydrating, movement, and mobility. So walking, some yoga, stretching, targeting those areas that get hit a lot with diving. Really important. And please, before you go on a dive trip, review the diver medical form. So the diver medical form is that form you do before a PADI course, or any course probably, and some dive shops ask for it. But it's not a requirement if you're not doing a course. And so just because it's not required doesn't mean it's not important. And so I just really recommend that before a trip, you double check with the medical form and just refresh your memories. Anything changed? Have your medications changed since the last time you went diving? When you're under pressure, anything that's in your body acts as if it's getting multiplied, right, under pressure. And so there are some medications that, when they're in higher concentrations, might affect your motor skills or your cognitive function underwater. So just review the form, make sure that you're all good to go. And if not, talk to your doctor and chat with them and make sure that you are safe, because nobody will take care of you like you do. Next, you need to prep your gear. So especially if you dive, maybe a couple times a year, haul your gear out a couple weeks before the trip and just make sure it's all fine. I charge all of my stuff before a trip. Your BCB, you can take it out fill it with air and leave it overnight. And then in the morning, if it's still full of air, you know it's good. If not, then maybe a valve is loose or you have a leak somewhere and you want to get your dive shop to check it out. Check your boots, your fins, your wetsuits. I can't tell you how many times I've like gotten home from a trip and something broke on the trip and then I just forget about it. And I go to pack all my stuff and I'm like, oh, I forgot my boots fell apart last time I went on a trip or something like that. So just check everything over. Maybe you flooded a dive light or something. And then pack snacks, hydration, and medications you know are safe and work for you. I know Elke mentioned the seasickness, and I saw someone else mention in the chat, but the patches and lots of other medications, so like the scopolamine patches and other types of anti-nausea medication can be very dehydrating. And so if you need to take medications for those kinds of things, you have to be doubly careful about your hydration. Dehydration is the #1 cause of or factor of DCS, of decompression sickness. So you need to be, that's why we care so much about our hydration. We want to, and there's lots of factors that can decrease the amount of water we're retaining. Okay, and then prepping for travel. Some of our trips are really close, some of them are far away. Do you have long flights? Do you have layovers? Are you going to have jet lag? Make sure you take your melatonin. If you're going to have a big time change, that's what works for me. Compression socks do wonders for you on flights. If I have a flight over 5 hours now, I wear my compression socks. And electrolytes. I'm not going to stop talking about hydration. Just that's how we're going to have it the whole time. I try and take the powder or the tablets for hydration, but I keep a few of the packets that go in my backpack or on the plane, so I can drink one on the plane as well. And if you do have a big time change, can you arrive early so that you have time to recover fully before your dives? Again, planes are super dehydrating, so if you're going to spend a long time on them, you need a chance for your body to recover. I'm going to stop for a second. Any questions about prepping for a dive trip? Anything I didn't mention? Awesome. Okay. Anyone bored to tears yet, or we're doing all right? Okay. I can see you guys smiling and nodding along, so it helps me out a lot when you're interactive. Thank you. Okay, so on the trip, how do we take care of us? Yeah, Mary, Lori, Cynthia, Sandy, and Jess, just so you know, you're my faces that are that I'm interacting with. All right, actually on a liveaboard, what's it like? What is the rhythm? What do we do? Your daily rhythm. So something I didn't put on the slide that's super important is that we eat like 4 or 5 times a day on a liveaboard. There's always a meal between every dive. When you wake up in the morning, you have a light breakfast, then you have a dive, then you have a big breakfast, then you have a dive, then you have lunch, then you have a dive, usually you have a snack, and then if you have a 4th dive, you have another dive, and then you have dinner. So in the morning, make sure that you, first thing when you wake up, drink some water with some electrolytes maybe, eat something. I know, especially if you're feeling seasick, you don't want to eat, but actually not eating can contribute to seasickness. So even though it feels like the last thing you want to do, putting something in your body, even if it's just fruit, a piece of toast will help settle your stomach and of course replace all those calories you're burning. And do a quick self-check. When I wake up in the morning, I do a little, like, oh, how's my ears doing? Stretch, like, oh, where am I stiff? Do I feel okay? Drink some water. Sometimes you wake up with a bit of a headache from, especially with air conditioning in hot places, it dries you out overnight, right? That also, air conditioning also makes me congested. So in the morning, I have to do a quick little check, make sure I'm doing okay. In between your dives, get in the shade, drink your electrolytes, and be in dry clothes. Do not wear the same wet dive clothes all day. Especially for women, this is super important. That is the quickest way to get a UTI, is by wearing wet swimsuit all day. Also dehydration, big factor in UTIs. After your dives for the day: shower, dry clothes, eat a full meal, and do a gentle stretch. So we don't do any big fitness activities after diving, right? No running, which you're not going to do on a boat, but some gentle movement, working out any muscle kinks, and just being aware in your body is super helpful. And then in the evening, I know we all like to have a beer or a glass of wine after a dive, but try and keep it to one, and not too much, because again, dehydrating, and if it stays in your body, it will affect your function in the morning. Charge all your devices. Do a quick dive check from your gear. Charge your flashlights, your cameras, rinse all your electronics from the day. Do just kind of like a reset, so that when you wake up in the morning, because it's usually an early call, make sure that you're ready to go in the morning, and then go to bed early. That's the best part of liveaboards. You're on the circadian rhythm. The sun goes down, so do we. That's great. And another reminder for you is that you are allowed to call a dive at any time for any reason. Okay, if you do not feel like you can dive, that is okay. You don't dive. It's really hard, especially on big liveaboards like Galapagos or Socorro, where you're like, if I don't dive, I'm not going to see the whale shark or something like that. It's really hard. But again, no whale shark or hammerhead is worth you getting sick, your safety, especially on those far off places. You don't want to take a helicopter from the middle of the Pacific Ocean to a decompression chamber, right? Like, take care of yourself. It's the most important thing. You also have way more fun when you feel good, right? So if you just need to have a nap during the dive, go have a nap. That's totally fine. So know your limits. When should you sit out a dive? Again, only you can determine this. Are you uncomfortable? Something just feels off? Do you have sinus pain, ear pain? Are you dizzy? Are you tired? Do you just not want to go? Do you ever just not wanted to go? That's your body trying to tell you that something's up and you need to rest. And of course, if you are seasick or vomiting, do not go. That vomiting is also dehydrating. So we don't want to be going diving after being sick, right? Okay, now I want to hear from you. What makes a successful dive day for you? Even if you've never been on a liveaboard, when you go diving, what are some fun things that you do to prepare yourself, either before the trip, or do you have like a morning ritual, a dive day ritual, anything like that? Tell me your secrets. Anybody? When I'm on a dive trip, I like to get up early, even though we are getting up early, and that time in the morning when nobody else is awake and the sun's coming up and it's super quiet is like my favorite moment, especially on a boat. Especially on like those, well, really probably any of them, but Socorro, Galapagos, Thailand, you often couldn't see anything else except maybe the one island you were on. There's no shoreline, and so it's really a beautiful, peaceful moment. Sandra likes to visualize, do a visualization exercise of a perfect dive. Myra does an electrolyte for sure, and 3 liters of water. Wow, that's a lot of water. Good. Nobody else has a dive day ritual? Does anyone like check all of their camera stuff or text their dive buddy?
I check my stuff like 5 times because I think something will just like magically disappear from the last time I checked.
Hey, and sometimes it does,
I start my
right? Totally fair. And sometimes you're like, I swear that was there a minute ago and now it's gone. Well, I suggest you create your own dive day ritual, because it's very like sports people, I was going to say athletes do this. Theater people do that. I did a theater background. It's like having a rhythm before a big event or anything like that. It reduces anxiety and it sets you up for success, right? So if you do the same thing kind of before every dive day, it can be great. Checking your SD cards, of course. We've all rolled back into the water with an empty camera for sure, or with the lens cap on. That's my favorite. Oh, Sydney looks at her pictures from the day at night. That's a nice ritual. Kristen knows that she's not a morning person. I totally respect that. I'm leaving at 3 a.m. on a flight, and I've put my clothes beside my bed so I can just roll out and grab them. Sunscreen. Yep. And do a full reset for sure. Yeah. Getting ready the night before seems like that's a theme for all of us. So that's great too. Okay, I just want to tell you a little bit about boat charters, because even if you have been on a Liveaboard, you might not know this about how they work. And I'm also going to talk about the sustainability and impacts that dive boats and any boats and operations have. So first of all, how do Liveaboards work? Just a little information for you. Most Liveaboards, they have a cruise director who is like the client leader of the trip. He's like our activities coordinator kind of guy. So he is the liaison between us as the guests and the crew, the captain, all of that. They are in charge of making sure that our proposed schedule and itinerary is still safe. They're checking the weather, checking tide reports, all of that kind of stuff, and then communicating that with us as the guests. And then you have your dive team and the crew. So the dive team, of course, is the guides helping us and working with us, and then the crew usually have hospitality and the boat crew. So you have the housekeeping and cooks and dish crew and stuff like that, and then you have the boat crew, the maintenance people, the captain that are keeping everything running. And usually on Liveaboards, it's a very tight-knit team. They usually live together and work together for months of the year. So they usually all work together, jobs overlap. The dive crew is also helping with kitchen and all that kind of stuff. And then with us, of course, you also have your MHT ambassador, who is, again, working to represent you as the clients in our group that we are going with to the operators and the cruise director. So usually the cruise director and the MHT ambassador work hand in hand to make sure everyone's having an awesome time and safe time. Boat resources. So things as a guest magically happen and appear for us as a guest. You might not know how or where they come from. Here is where they come from. All energy on the boat is coming from fuel. Everything that happens on the boat is coming from fuel, right? Sometimes they might have a few solar panels to help with electronics, but usually it's coming from fuel. So that means every time you turn on a light, anytime you're charging your devices, and then also because it's a boat, all the water is coming from pumps, right? It's being pumped. And so you turn your shower, the pump kicks on and runs the water pressure. Wash your hands, same thing. Speaking of water, water is desalinated. So they either have an onboard system or an external system on the boat where it pulls water from the ocean, filters it, desalinates it, spits the saline back out, and feeds the fresh water to the rest of the boat, okay? Also run by fuel. And the other thing to know about that is desalinated water has been completely filtered and stripped of all the nutrients, right? There's no minerals and stuff in that water. So that's also why we need more electrolytes on a boat, because there's nothing in the water except H2O to give us energy and stuff like that. Waste is usually dumped into the sea while we're underway. And that is like the normal standard for pretty much all boats. We always say, like, I can't believe they're allowed to do that. Well, like, there's no governing body of the ocean. So, like, who's gonna tell people what to do, right? And so by that, I mean that our sewage is usually dumped and food waste is usually dumped. Most boats try and do it while we're underway, so while we're sailing, so that it's out in deep water, it gets caught up in the current, and it's not getting flushed directly onto the reef, right? But of course, it's still getting put into the ocean. And I mentioned that with the food waste, especially because even though you might think, oh, it's organic material, like it'll decompose, food actually decomposes much slower in water than it does in air. And it causes nutrient blooms, like nutrient spikes in the area, right? So if you dump a bunch of food and add a bunch of nutrient to the water, all of a sudden the algae is going to spike, right? And that can affect the balance of the ecosystems around. And yeah, Myra makes a good point. That's why we don't swim outside the boats, especially at night, because that's usually when they're doing a lot of this stuff. So how can we lower our impact? Also, something I forgot to mention with the waste is that the gray water as well is going into the sea, right? Like there's no holding tanks for this because that would also use a lot more fuel. Same with why we can't carry water for everybody, right? You dragging all that to the ocean, going to use more fuel. So only using biodegradable products is really, really important. And I mean that for everything, like your shampoo, your soaps, everything that's going to wash off of you needs to be biodegradable. Of course, we love Stream to Sea. They have this like camping soap that can just be like washed off onto the ground and it will break down. So that's a great option for boats. Also, like we were just in Malaysia on the rig, and same thing, right? Like they do store their black water and use like a nutrient additive that like breaks down it and makes it like better for dumping into the ocean, but still it goes. Pack in and pack out. Don't bring a bunch of waste with you. So like if you're buying little packages and stuff that's wrapped up, like unwrap it at home. Don't bring it to the boat with you to be disposed of there. And choosing your operators is really important with everything, right? Like even though there's no way to have a fully sustainable liveaboard because of all these reasons I just told you, there are some that are better than others. So like an example we like to use is the liveaboard we use in Komodo. They're the only, they like actually got together, found the funds and put in mooring lines around the islands because everyone else was anchoring. And if you don't know the difference, a mooring line is like drilled into the seafloor with a line and then the mooring ball at the top and you tie onto that, right? An anchor, they just toss it in and drag it until it catches on something, right? And so it does that. And then also the weight of the chain is what holds a boat in place when they anchor. And usually it's on some reef, even if it's on sand and seagrass and stuff, that's still a natural habitat that if you think about like boats coming there constantly during the season and doing this over and over again, it makes a big difference. So mooring is like a huge, like a simple choice we can make as travelers that can have makes a big difference. Boat etiquette. The biggest thing you're going to hear on liveaboards is not to charge devices in your rooms. Does anybody know why that is? Anybody have any ideas? No. So electronics, yeah, Alicia, fires. Electronics, especially on boats where the circuitry isn't consistent, right? Like we might have at home. If an electronic sparks or fails for any reason and starts a fire, like ironically, fires are the biggest dangers to boats. That is what, I mean, I'm sure we've all seen, you know, heard of liveaboards burning down and stuff. It's usually because of electronic devices being unsupervised. And so that's why we say don't put them in, don't charge them in your room, and like, don't do it. It's not funny to be sneaky about it. It's not funny to like do it anyway, because there are plugs in the rooms because most boats were built before this rule. And that's why we have it now, because they kept burning. Most of the boards have a beautiful charging area on the dive deck, and like everyone has their own space. And like I bring my little charge bar and like plug all my things in the same spot and everything's there. Some places still let you charge stuff overnight while you're in there, but a lot of them have gone like full stop, not at all. And I try not to as well. Be on time. If you're not there on time, then that's fine. They'll just assume you don't go. But dive math is always like whatever time you lose in the morning multiplies in the afternoon, right? If you leave 10 minutes late, you're coming back an hour late from a dive. I don't know why, but that's how dive math works. Same thing if you leave early. If you leave 10 minutes early, you get an extra hour in the afternoon. It's magic. Be organized. Someone mentioned it's a small space. It's a really small space on boats. Don't leave your stuff everywhere. Dive liveaboards give you usually a space like here. This is our Thailand liveaboard. This is your dive gear, and it stays on your tank the whole time. They bring a whip around and they fill the tanks from your station. And then we all got a little basket. So like a basket and space here to hang your stuff. That's plenty of room. There was 4 camera tables in the back. Your stuff is either in your cubby, hanging up, or on a camera table. There's no reason for it to be all around. And that's for 2 reasons. Of course, respecting the space, respecting each other. And the other one is that stuff disappears because it blows away. So if you leave your stuff laying around, it's very possible it'll blow off the boat and into the water. And then you won't have it, and we've littered in the ocean. Respect the call, and that, I mean, the cruise director and maybe your MHC ambassador might decide that it's not safe to dive, or might decide that we really wanted to do this site, but the conditions won't allow it. We need to go somewhere else. Respect it. We don't do any of those decisions lightly. Nobody's just like, I don't feel like going to this place today. The director's not doing that. They have a really good reason why they're not doing it, and we need to, you can be disappointed, that's fine, but say, okay, I respect that. We're not gonna whine about it later. Peeing in wetsuits, I should have put that on here. Someone mentioned that. I know it's a joke, and we love to joke about it in the dive community, but we know when you peed in a wetsuit, and if you're sharing rinse tanks with you, that's gonna go in all of our stuff, and it smells. It makes the water smell, it makes our stuff smell. So if you are team pee in your wetsuit, that's fine. Rinse your stuff somewhere else. Hang it somewhere else so it doesn't affect everybody else's stuff. Labeling all of your things, that's going to come up later on my tips. But yes, definitely label all your stuff. Safety first. Yeah, I think that's everything. So what are good boat habits? Tell us your boat habits and what helped you be a good buddy and traveler. I liked that Tamara mentioned the labeling already. Alicia, should we leave power banks at home too? I bring mine because I use it on the plane and stuff in the airports. I've not usually needed it on a boat unless you want to hang out on the sun deck and use your phone. Then like, yeah, bring your power bank up there. Just don't use it in your room and charge it on the dive deck, but you can still have your power banks. Any other good boat habits? Anything people do that they're like, oh, this makes me such a good guest? I'll tell you, I will tie people's stuff on them if I see it was not done very well. If I walk by and like I see a bikini kind of hiding funny, I'll like tie it onto the line better. Oh, good question, Kristen, about packing and packing out. If we take the wrappers off of stuff, I do not take the wrappers off stuff. I have sometimes packed it out with me. That kind of stuff, they will not dump in the ocean. Good liveaboards will not. They will save that and dump and put it next time we go to port, or sometimes on longer boat rides, you might have like a fuel stop or something like that. The actual like plastic trash will get stowed and then taken off or dinghied out. But that's a good question. That obviously a hiker or a camper. Okay, cool. And the last thing I have for you is just a few tips for a successful trip. I mentioned this a little bit, but having 3 to 4 sets of dive clothes so that you always have something dry. The nice thing about liveaboards is they're usually windy, so if you tie stuff on the upper decks, then they'll dry off pretty quick. But if you're doing 4 dives a day, probably your first outfit is not going to be dry by your 4th dive. So I bring at least 4 sets so that I have something dry for every dive that I can wear the next. I am not personally a fan of the clips for boats, and the boat clips. I worked on a yacht for a bit. I've been on a few liveaboards. Every type of clothing clip I saw broke or blew off or like fell off or wasn't used properly. So I'm really prefer just tying your stuff on, wrap it around the lifelines and tie it. Swimsuits are super easy. You just loop it and around. that's my personal preference. Of course, the dive deck also has hangers and stuff you can use, but usually it's not enough for all of our stuff. Big fan of a poncho. I just, as soon as I get out of the water on a liveaboard, I put my poncho on, I take everything else off, and you just air out between the dive, and then you put on your dry stuff for the next dive. Just, it's so important to dry off as much as you can. Label everything, everything, and I mean it. I get these like waterproof labels custom made, and they are on my charging cables, my power banks, even the batteries of your GoPro. Because when you get on a liveaboard, everyone and their dog has a GoPro. So you don't want to be arguing over who charged which batteries where. Just put the sticker on your GoPro or use a Sharpie. All my charging cables, like what else? Like literally everything I'm looking at around me has a label on it, even my laptop. And they're waterproof, so I have one on my BCD, one on each fin, one on my regulator, all that jazz. And have a wet clothes packing strategy. Has anyone ever been able to take all their stuff home perfectly dry from a dive trip? No. When we left Philippines last year, it was pouring buckets of rain. Our stuff was like completely full on soaked. And so if you don't have a strategy for that, then all of your stuff's going to stink. So I use my dry bag. You can empty out your dry bag and put your wet clothes in there, or bring some plastic bags, whatever it is you want, but just have a system for that. Yes, I can, Erica. Thank you so much for asking. I just
really grumpy, I think.
the labels.
Like 10 minutes in the car just now when you read some labels, but that was it.
All right.
Yeah, I went with all the kids. Sorry.
There we go. Yeah, so the waterproof labels, they actually are on our website, Martins and Trips. If you go to the gear page, actually, I'll find it and share it to you right now. We have a packing list and suggestions there, but also the labels. I do recommend getting them early because they take about a month to arrive when you get them custom done. So order them early. Let me just make sure they're on here. Yeah. There, I put the link in the chat there. No worries, Alyssa, totally fine. Cool, okay. That is all I have. I would love to hear your questions, things I didn't cover that you were hoping I would, or that I didn't cover enough. Any questions?
I have a question. I haven't used a poncho before, so can you tell me like when you would normally wear it? Usually, we're just doing the 2 morning boat dives and the 2 afternoon dives. And so would you take your skin off like after the second dive, and then you have your bathing suit on underneath your skin and just wear your bathing suit underneath your poncho like during lunch or something, or what would you do?
I go full nude under the poncho, like completely dry out.
And then do you wear lunch and stuff?
Mm-hmm. That's exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I should have mentioned this too, most liveaboards have a dry dining area and you cannot wear anything wet. And so like on boats in general, they usually have a threshold and you cannot cross that threshold wet. And that's where all your rooms are, and that's where the dining area is usually. Some of them have an outdoor dining, which is honestly amazing. But so the poncho is perfect for that because yeah, I strip down, put it on, strip down, and then breathe. And I actually do it for like, resort trips too, where you have to be dry in the dining area. I have the poncho. Yeah.
Nice.
I also wear it as a bathrobe, like after a shower, like go outside. So it is one of those things. Oh, let me see. Yes, I will fix the link for the labels. Thanks, guys. Those ones in particular, the labels I have found, they change, like the people who make them changes. So sometimes the links expire. Any other questions?
I put it in the chat, but I'll just ask. Shoes. Do you just need your dive shoes and then sandals and you're good to go? Are we walking around barefoot? Like, what's the etiquette?
That's a good question. Barefoot shoes are not usually allowed on boats. So you have the shoes that you get on the boat with. They will usually they'll take them from you and put them in a big bucket. And then if you do any land excursions or anything, then they'll bring them out for you. But yeah, I'm barefoot on the boats. There we go. Oh, Sakura, we need shoes. Oh, that's interesting. I've never heard of that. There's the link to the actual labels. Yeah, I'm usually wearing my slip-on sandals when I get on the boat. And also, like, they'll tell you, like, if you're doing a hiking or anything on the liveaboard, if like you're gonna just stop over on an island, then they'll tell you that so that you can bring like hiking sandals or whatever. I think Sea Cortez, we sometimes do that. Yeah, less is absolutely more for clothing. I will tell you, as you know, I live in my poncho for the liveaboards, and in the evening, like if we're done diving by like 6, then I'll usually have like a comfy romper or something that's cozy and warm. Even in warm climates, like even in Thailand, I wore a pants romper because you're diving all day, your core temperature is cooling, and then usually the boats are quite windy. So having pants is nice, and a hoodie, super cozy. And you always have amazing like view of the stars and stuff. So you want to be up on the deck and hanging out and staying warm. Denise, did you have a question as well?
Yeah, can you recommend which liveaboard trip you would think is good for a newbie?
Yeah, our Cuba liveaboard, the best. Yeah, Cuba is great. Thailand is great. Where else? Myra. Yeah, she said Cuba and Thailand. Yeah. The ponchos are on our merch page. Let me see. There's only 5 left as of right now. We might sell them all up on this call. Unless it's going to Cuba in 2028. That's nice. That's awesome. There's still spots left. Come with me in January next year if anyone wants to. Cuba is really nice because it's Caribbean and it's there's not a lot of current. It's warm. The boat doesn't move very much. You actually like stay on the mothership, and then you go out on pangas, so not dinghies, which they usually are. You go on pangas and you do 2 dives and come back. Sandra's coming to Cuba with me. Yay! Yeah, it's true. Liveaboards, usually the liveaboards are to reach the hard to reach destinations. And so a lot of them are like medium to advanced diving. But Cuba, Thailand is super easy. Actually, it's a great training liveaboard because Thailand, we did the 10-day, and there are a few spots with stronger current, but it's like 90% really easy diving. And then you get some practice on like more difficult sites, but that's not the norm.
Does the Thailand trip also include any land time, or is there a way to kind of build some of that in?
For sure. We do a trip to the elephant sanctuary. So we do like an extra day in Phuket. And then, yeah, like lots of people, like nothing official, but lots of the mermaids will be staying or coming early or staying later for sure. You go all that way, like. Ooh, Myra's gonna go to the jungle. Oh, you're gonna go up to what's it called? One in the north. Any other questions? This has been so great. Thank you, ladies, for interacting. It makes a lot more fun for me.
Thank you so much for the call. This was great.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you. This was an idea that someone mentioned to me on a trip in Tulum. And so I'm so glad it resonated with you guys, but I love to hear your ideas because I try and do them every month, every other month. And I would love to know what other topics we could do to help you out. So put it in the chat, or if you want to send us a message on Insta or Facebook or anything, please do. And then we can do another one. I'm so glad you enjoyed it. Thank you. I appreciate it a lot because I do put a lot of time into these. So I really appreciate that it was helpful for you and you enjoyed it. And yeah, please continue to ask any questions if you want. There's the, I was also going to mention in November or December, I think I did a call just about packing, and it's up on our YouTube channel. So if you want to learn about packing and your dive gear and things, you can check that out. It's on our YouTube. Mar Hosted Trips is the YouTube channel. And we also have a bunch more calls that I've done in the past. Fish ID, Dive Like a Girl, this is one of my favorite ones, about taking care of your hair and your skin, diving on your period, all that kind of stuff. DCS, last year we did the Women in DCS series. Oh, thank you, Kristen. I'm glad you liked the packing call. That was great. No luggage limits on Liveaboards usually. I mean, they do always ask you not to bring too much stuff because storage is limited. And what they'll do usually is, and we will tell you this before the trip, but we recommend having your dive gear in one bag and everything else in another bag, or have your dive gear easy to take out. They put your suitcases on the dive deck, you take out your gear, and then they'll put your bag in your room, you unpack, and then you put your bag in the hallway, and they will stow it away somewhere out of our eyesight. So some Liveaboards have a little more space under the beds and stuff, and others don't. But that's usually what happens. It's a good question there. June 12th, you get the personal labels. Yeah, about 3 weeks, a month. Seriously, they're the best thing. The labels, they're like $30, which might feel expensive, but I bought one sheet 2 years ago and I'm almost at the end of them now. So they last a long time. They work really well. And I've had it on my BCD and my regulator. I just replaced my regulator after probably 300 dives the sticker had on it. So yeah, they work really well. Great. Well, please keep in touch. We love to hear from you. Instagram, Facebook, wherever. This call was hosted through the School of Mermaids Dive School on Facebook page. And then here you can reach out to Mar Hosted Trips, Myra, or myself. We love to hear from you. And thank you so much for being here. This is really great.
Thank you so much.